Commander June stood at the helm of his stealth ship, looking at the massive Krill space station ahead. The metal beast floated in the darkness of space, its lights blinking like evil eyes. June's mission was clear. Get in, find information about the new Krill weapon, and get out. "Ready, Commander?" asked his pilot. June nodded, his face serious. Everyone in the galaxy knew his name. 3 times the Krill had tried to attack Earth. 3 times Commander June had stopped them. They called him the impenetrable shield, and even alien races far from Earth spoke of his clever battle plans with respect. "Taking us in now," the pilot said. "Stealth systems at maximum." Their small ship slipped toward the Krill station, invisible to all sensors. June checked his weapon, a silent energy pistol that could stun or kill. He hoped he wouldn't need to use it. The best missions were the ones where no one knew he was ever there. Once docked in a hidden maintenance bay, June moved alone through the station's dark corridors. His black armor helped him blend with the shadows. Years of fighting the Krill had taught him their ways. He knew how they thought, how they built their stations, and how they guarded their secrets. After disabling 2 guard drones, he reached the research section. The door opened with an access code stolen from a Krill commander weeks ago. Inside, June found what Earth Command feared most: proof of a new weapon technology. Large machines filled the room. In the center, a test chamber glowed with strange energy. June moved to the computer terminal and began downloading the files. "Weapon designation, molecular compression ray," he read. "Status, ready for deployment." The files showed test results. The weapon didn't destroy targets, it shrank them. Entire ships, buildings, even people could be reduced to tiny size. The Krill planned to shrink Earth's defenses, then simply step on them. "This is worse than we thought," June whispered to himself as he finished the download. He needed to warn Earth right away. As he turned to leave, the lights suddenly flashed on. Alarm sounds filled the air. 6 Krill soldiers entered, their insect-like bodies covered in battle armor, their 4 arms each holding weapons pointed at him. "Commander June," said a voice from behind the soldiers. They moved aside to let a larger Krill through. This one wore royal colors. "The famous human warrior. At last we meet." June reached for his weapon, but energy nets shot from the ceiling, pinning his arms. The Krill royal laughed, the sound like scraping metal. "I am General Mach, cousin to Queen Vex herself. Your capture will bring me great honor." "Your queen has failed to take Earth 3 times," June said, struggling against the nets. "She'll fail again." General Mach moved closer, his compound eyes reflecting June's trapped image. "No, human. This time we have something special planned. The Queen requested that if you were ever captured, you should not be killed." He gestured to the test chamber. "You will become the first human test subject for our new technology." June fought harder as the soldiers dragged him toward the glowing chamber. The general watched with cruel joy. "The Queen has a collection. You see, rare creatures from all the worlds we conquer. She keeps them in special terrariums, little copies of their homeworlds." Mach clicked his mandibles together in amusement. "She has wanted an Earth specimen for her collection. And not just any specimen, the great Commander June." The chamber door opened. Despite his training, despite all his battles and victories, June felt real fear as they pushed him inside. "When Earth falls, you will watch it happen," Mach said as the chamber sealed. But from a very different perspective. The machine hummed to life. Pain shot through June's body as bright light surrounded him. He felt his very molecules being compressed, squeezed, reduced. His last thought before losing consciousness was of Earth, now defenseless against what was coming. The legendary warrior had fallen. June woke up to the feeling of something tickling his face. He opened his eyes to see a blade of grass taller than he was. He sat up quickly, his head spinning. "Where am I?" he whispered to himself. All around him stretched a landscape that looked like Earth, but wrong. Giant trees rose into the sky, their trunks as wide as buildings. A stream of water flowed nearby, but it sounded like a roaring river. Flowers towered overhead like colorful buildings. June looked down at his body. He still wore his black armor, but he was tiny, smaller than an ant. The shrinking ray had worked. "You're awake," said a voice behind him. June spun around, reaching for his weapon. It wasn't there. A woman stood watching him. She wore simple clothes made from what looked like leaves and plant fibers. She was human and just as small as he was. "Who are you?" June asked. "My name is Minji. I was a scientist on the Earth colony on Mars. I was captured 3 years ago during the first krill attack." She gestured around them. "Welcome to Her Majesty's collection." June looked beyond the plants and saw it, curved glass walls rising up in the distance. They were in some kind of giant container. Beyond the glass was a massive room with alien furniture. Everything was sized for the krill, who were much larger than humans even before he was shrunk. "This is a terrarium?" June asked. Minji nodded. "Queen Vex collects specimens from every world the krill invade. She keeps us in these habitats, little copies of our home planets." Minji pointed to what looked like a small village made of bark and leaves in the distance. "There are 17 of us from Earth here, plus creatures from 12 other worlds." June started walking toward the glass wall. "I need to get out of here. Earth needs to know about the shrinking weapon." Minji laughed, but there was no joy in it. "There is no way out. Many have tried." She walked beside him. "The glass is just the beginning. There's an energy field at the top. Microscopic security drones patrol the air. The Queen thinks of everything." As they reached the edge of the terrarium, June placed his hand on the glass. It felt like touching a mountain. Through it, he could see the vast royal chamber beyond. Alien furniture loomed like mountains, and there, sitting at what must be a desk, was the largest krill he had ever seen. Queen Vex was at least twice the size of other krill, her exoskeleton a deep purple with gold markings. 4 large arms moved over what looked like computer screens. Her compound eyes reflected the light, making them shine like jewels. As if sensing his gaze, the Queen suddenly turned toward the terrarium. June froze as her massive eyes focused on him. "She's looking at me," he whispered. "She's very interested in new specimens," Minji said quietly. "Especially important ones." The Queen rose from her seat and moved toward them. Each step shook the ground, even through the glass. She towered over the terrarium like a living mountain. "Commander June," the Queen's voice boomed through hidden speakers inside the terrarium. The sound vibrated through June's tiny body. "The great human warrior, now small enough for me to crush with one finger." June stood tall despite his size. "Earth will find me, and they will make you pay for this." The Queen made a sound that might have been laughter. "No one is looking for you, human. Your ship was destroyed. Earth thinks you died on a failed mission." She leaned closer to the glass. "You are mine now, my most valuable specimen." She tapped the glass with one claw, sending vibrations that knocked both June and Minji off their feet. "Enjoy your new home," the Queen said before turning away. Minji helped June stand. "Come," she said. "I'll show you the village. You need to learn how to survive here." June took one last look at the retreating form of the Queen. "I will escape," he said, "no matter what it takes." Minji shook her head. "First, you need to learn the rules, or you won't survive long enough to try." The next morning, June climbed to the top of a grass blade to study the terrarium. From this height, he could see the whole glass world. It was bigger than he first thought. There were hills, a small forest, the stream that ran through the middle, and several clearings. In the largest clearing sat the village Minji had shown him. The village was clever. The houses were made from bark, leaves, and other plants. Some people had even used small stones to build walls. Minji had given him a small hut to sleep in, but June had not slept much. His mind was busy planning escape. As June slid down the grass blade, he saw Minji waiting for him. First lesson, she said. Never go up high like that in the open. The queen likes to watch us. If she sees someone interesting, she sometimes adds, challenges. What kind of challenges? June asked. Minji pointed to a part of the terrarium where the plants were all dead. Last year, Han climbed to the top of the forest every day, trying to find a way out through the air vents. The queen noticed and decided to test him. She added a new creature to that part of the terrarium, a hunter beetle. Han didn't survive. June frowned. So we're not just prisoners. We're entertainment. Yes, Minji said. And that leads to the second rule. Be useful to the group, but not too interesting to the queen. They walked through the village. Other tiny humans nodded at them. Some looked curious about June, but no one approached. At the edge of the village, a man was teaching the group how to weave grass into rope. That's Ta, Minji said. He was a pilot. He tried to escape 17 times. Now he just helps others survive. 17 times? June asked. How did he try? Many ways. Climbing the glass, digging under the soil barrier, hiding in the food delivery system. Once he built a glider to fly over the energy field. Minji looked sad. The queen watches everything. The terrarium has hidden cameras, sensors, even tiny drones that look like insects. As if on cue, something that looked like a small flying beetle buzzed past them. But its movement was too regular, too mechanical. That's a drone, Minji whispered. They're everywhere. They continued walking until they reached the stream. A woman was there, using a makeshift tool to collect water in small leaf cups. Yuna, Minji called. This is June, the new arrival. Yuna looked up. She had clever eyes and hands that never seemed to stop moving. The famous commander. We've heard stories about you from the newer arrivals. Yuna was an engineer, Minji explained. She understands the terrarium systems better than anyone. Is there a way out? June asked directly. Yuna glanced at the nearest drone, then motioned for them to move under the cover of a large leaf. Not that we found yet. But there's something you should know about the Queen's collection. What's that? June asked. She gets bored easily, Yuna said. When specimens don't entertain her anymore, she has them removed. The pruning, Minji added. Every few months, the Queen removes the least interesting specimens and adds new ones. June thought about this, so our survival depends on being entertaining enough to keep, but not so interesting that she tests us to death. Both women nodded. There's one more thing you need to know, Yuna said. Not all the creatures here are from Earth. She pointed to where the stream emptied into a small pond. Something moved in the water, something with too many limbs and eyes on stalks. That's from a water world called Aquis, Minji explained. Mostly peaceful, but territorial about the pond. And there, June pointed to a glowing light moving at the edge of the forest. That's Sunho, Yuna said. He's not human, but he's friendly. His people communicate through light patterns. He's been here longer than any of us. June took in all this information, his mind already forming plans. I understand the rules now, he said. Survive. Don't attract too much attention. Learn the environment. Minji nodded, looking relieved. Good. Most new people try to escape right away and get themselves killed. Oh, I'm still going to escape, June said quietly. But first, I need to understand everything about this place. Every weakness, every system, every creature. He looked up at the glass walls rising around them. The Queen thinks she's watching us in a cage. She doesn't realize she's locked herself in with me. Over the next week, June explored every corner of the terrarium. He made a map in his mind, noting water sources, food plants, dangerous areas, and safe hiding spots. He watched the daily routine of the tiny village and learned who did what jobs. One morning, as June helped collect seeds for food, a soft glow approached him. It was Sunho, the alien Yuna had mentioned. Up close, June could see Sunho had a body like clear jelly, with patterns of light moving inside him. He had no mouth, but words somehow formed in Jun's mind when the lights pulsed. "You are the warrior," Sunho's lights seemed to say. "The one who fought the krill 3 times." "I am," Jun replied, unsure if he should bow or shake hands with the glowing being. "I have watched many come and go in this glass prison." Sunho's lights pulsed. "Those who fight directly die. Those who give up fade away. You are different. You watch and learn first." Jun nodded. "In battle, knowing your enemy and your ground is half the victory." Wise, Sunho glowed brighter. "My people believe all things are connected. Even here, we are part of the Queen's world, and she is part of ours. This connection may be your path." Before Jun could ask what he meant, Sunho floated away, his body merging with the morning light. Later that day, Jun joined Ta, who was teaching others how to set traps for the small insects that sometimes entered the terrarium through the air system. "These provide protein," Ta explained. "The Queen gives us plant food, but we need meat to stay strong." "You tried to escape 17 times?" Jun asked quietly. Ta's eyes hardened. "Yes, and I have the scars to prove it." He rolled up his sleeve to show burn marks on his arm. "The energy field at the top does this if you touch it. The glass is unbreakable at our size. The soil goes down to a metal floor. But you keep trying new ways," Jun said. "I did," Ta corrected. "Now I focus on helping everyone survive." He looked at Jun closely. "You're planning something. I can tell. Word of advice: don't trust everyone here. Some would trade information to the Queen for better treatment." That evening, Jun sat with Yuna near the stream as she worked on a small device made from parts she had collected. "What's that?" he asked. "A water filter," she said loudly, then whispered, "Actually, it's a signal jammer. It blocks the drones from hearing us for about 2 minutes. I can only use it rarely or they'll notice." She turned it on, and a nearby drone seemed to pause in the air. "Listen quickly," Yuna said. "The terrarium has maintenance systems, tiny robots that clean the water, adjust the soil chemicals, and fix the plants. I've been studying them. They come from small tubes hidden in the rocks." "Can we use them to escape?" Jun asked. "Not directly, but I've learned to predict when they come, and sometimes I can catch one." She showed him a tiny metal part. "Each piece I collect helps me understand their technology better." The device made a soft peep, and Yuna quickly put it away. The drone moved normally again. As night fell, Jun met with Minji outside his hut. The artificial lights in the terrarium dimmed to simulate night on Earth. "Tomorrow the Queen will observe us again," Minji said. "She does this twice a week. Sometimes she adds new things to test us." "I want to meet everyone who might help us," Jun said. "People with skills, people who want to fight back." Minji looked worried. "Be careful who you trust. And remember, the Queen is always watching." As if hearing her name, the giant form of Queen Vex appeared suddenly at the glass wall. The ground trembled slightly as she placed a huge eye against the terrarium to peer inside. Everyone in the village froze, then quickly pretended to go about normal activities. "Sleep now, little humans," the Queen's voice boomed through the hidden speakers. "Tomorrow I have something special planned for you, especially you, Commander Jun." As the Queen moved away, Jun felt a chill. She was watching him specifically, but instead of fear, he felt a spark of opportunity. The more interested she was in him, the more he might learn about her. And every enemy, no matter how powerful, had a weakness. "Tomorrow will be interesting," he told Minji with a grim smile. The next morning, a loud humming woke everyone in the village. The terrarium's ceiling opened, and a large mechanical arm lowered something into their world. It was a clear box with air holes. Inside the box was a small creature with many legs, sharp pincers, and angry red eyes. "A hunter beetle," Minji gasped. "The Queen hasn't added one of those since Han died." The mechanical arm placed the box near the village center. With a click, the box opened. The beetle crawled out, its pincers snapping at the air as it sensed the humans nearby. Panic spread through the village. People ran to their huts, grabbing whatever weapons they had made. Sharpened twigs, stone knives, and pointed grass stems. "Everyone stay calm," Jun called out. "Form a circle. Tai, take 5 people to the right. Yuna, 5 to the left. Minji, get the children to the high ground." To Jun's surprise, they followed his orders without question. His years as a commander showed in his voice and manner. The beetle charged forward, moving faster than Jun expected. It was the size of a small car to them. "Hold the line," Jun shouted. He picked up a long thorn he had been sharpening as a spear. "Wait for my signal." The beetle attacked. At Jun's command, the defenders moved as one unit, jabbing at the creature from all sides. They could not kill it, but they drove it back, confusing it with their organized defense. "Now to the stream," Jun ordered. "Slowly, keep formation." They backed toward the water, the beetle following. When they reached the stream's edge, Jun gave a new command. "Split apart." The group divided, and the beetle charged the gap, right into the deep part of the stream. It thrashed in the water, unable to swim with its heavy body. Soon it stopped moving. "The queen thinks these creatures will kill us for her entertainment," Jun said loudly, knowing the hidden microphones would pick up his words. "But she forgets that humans survive by working together." A slow clapping sound filled the terrarium. Queen Vex appeared at the glass wall, her huge face watching them with interest. "Impressive, Commander," her voice boomed. "Most new specimens hide when I add a predator. You organized a defense." Her compound eyes gleamed. "Perhaps you are as clever as your reputation suggests." A small tube extended from the ceiling. From it descended a tiny device that landed near Jun. It was a miniature version of a krill communication tool. "Speak into this," the queen commanded. "I wish to hear your thoughts directly." Jun picked up the device. It was the first piece of technology he had been allowed to touch since his capture. "What do you want to know?" he asked. "Why do humans fight so hard against us?" the queen asked. "Your planet is small. Your technology is simple, yet you resist when others surrender." Jun thought carefully before answering. "Humans adapt. It's what we do best. Every challenge makes us stronger." "Fascinating," the queen said. "Yet now you are trapped, smaller than a grain of sand to me. How will you adapt to this?" "I already am," Jun replied. "As you can see." The queen's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. "Indeed, most specimens become docile in captivity. You organize and fight back. This pleases me." Jun realized something important. The queen was not just keeping them as pets. She was studying them, learning about different species, and she seemed particularly interested in humans. "If I answer your questions about humanity," Jun said, "what will you give me in return?" The queen's massive eyes narrowed. "You dare to bargain with me?" "Information for information," Jun said calmly. "Isn't that fair?" There was a long silence. Then the queen made that clicking sound again. "Very well. Ask one question, and I will answer truthfully." Jun didn't hesitate. "Why are you so interested in how humans adapt and survive?" The queen leaned closer to the glass. Her voice dropped lower, almost to a whisper despite its booming quality. "Because, Commander Jun, of all the species we have conquered, humans are the only ones who continue to resist. Your Earth forces have destroyed more of my ships in 3 failed invasions than all other worlds combined in successful ones." She tapped the glass with one giant claw. "I need to understand why, before we launch our 4th attack." And with those chilling words, the queen stood and walked away, leaving Jun with the knowledge that Earth was still fighting, and still in danger. 3 days after the beetle incident, Jun called a secret meeting. They gathered under a large leaf where Yuna activated her signal jammer. "We have 2 minutes," she said. "The drones can't hear us." "The queen is studying us to find ways to defeat Earth," Jun said quickly. This isn't just about our survival anymore. What can we do? Tai asked. We're trapped and tiny. The Queen gave me a communication device, Jun replied. That's the first mistake she's made. I've been examining it at night. It's not just for talking to her. It connects to the Krill network. If I can change its settings, maybe we can send a message to Earth. That's impossible, Minji said. The device is too small for us to open. Sunho's body glowed brighter. Not impossible. My fingers are smaller than yours. I can help. Yuna nodded. And I understand Krill technology. If we work together. The jammer beeped. Their time was up. They moved away from each other, pretending nothing had happened. Later that day, the terrarium ceiling opened again. This time, the mechanical arm lowered several small objects throughout their world. They were tiny red balls, each about the size of a human head. What are those? Joan asked Minji. Before she could answer, one of the balls cracked open. A cloud of dust puffed out. A woman who had been standing nearby breathed it in and began coughing violently. Spore pods, Minji shouted. Don't breathe the dust. All around the terrarium, the red balls were opening. Red dust filled the air. Everyone cover your mouths, Jun commanded. Use wet leaves as masks. People rushed to the stream, soaking leaves and pressing them to their faces. But the dust was spreading fast. Some were already on the ground, gasping for air. The Queen's voice echoed through the terrarium. A simple challenge, Commander. These spores cause breathing problems in humans. Not deadly, unless you panic. Let's see how you handle a crisis. Jun's mind raced. He had dealt with gas attacks during the Krill Wars. We need clean air, he said to Ta. The stream. Water can filter the air. Understanding dawned on Ta's face. They quickly organized everyone into the deepest part of the stream, where small reeds grew. Cut the reeds, Jun ordered. Hollow them out. We can use them as breathing tubes. They worked fast. Soon, everyone was standing neck-deep in water, breathing through reed tubes while the red dust settled on the water's surface around them. For hours they waited, taking turns helping the weakest. When the dust finally settled, they emerged, wet but alive. The Queen appeared at the glass wall again, watching them with those huge compound eyes. Impressive adaptation, she said through the speakers, using water to filter toxins. Simple but effective. She leaned closer to the glass. You continue to interest me, Commander. Is that all we are to you? Jun shouted back. Lab rats to test. The Queen seemed amused. You are specimens in my collection, but you, Jun, are becoming more valuable with each test. She tapped the glass. I will give you a reward. Ask for something, within reason. Jun didn't hesitate. Medical supplies. Some of our people are still having trouble breathing. An interesting choice. Not freedom for yourself, but help for others. The Queen made a gesture, and a small package descended into the terrarium. Basic medical supplies, shrunk to your size. As Jun took the package to Minji, who had medical training, he felt the Queen's eyes follow him. One more thing, Commander, the Queen said. Tomorrow I have guests coming to see my collection. Important Krill military leaders. I expect you and your humans to perform well. Show them why your species is so resilient. After she left, Yuna approached Jun. The medical supplies are good, she whispered. But now we're going to be a war demonstration. Jun nodded grimly. Yes, but it's also an opportunity. If military leaders are coming, they'll have ships, communication equipment, and information about Earth's defenses. What are you planning? Yuna asked. Jun looked at the tiny communication device the Queen had given him. Something very dangerous. Tonight, we need to talk to Sunho. As darkness fell on the terrarium, Jun knew the next day might be their only chance to send a warning to Earth. The Queen's interest in him had become their greatest weapon, and their greatest risk. Deep in the night, when the terrarium lights dimmed to simulate darkness, Jun met with Sunho beneath a large leaf. Yuna and Minji kept watch, while Ta distracted the patrol drones with movement in another area. The communication device has tiny screws, June explained, showing Sunho the small krill technology. Your light body can make thin beams, right? Can you use them to turn the screws? Sunho's body pulsed with blue light. I can try. My people use light for many things. He focused a thin beam from one of his tendrils. The light became solid at its tip, like a tiny screwdriver. Slowly, carefully, he began to turn the microscopic screws. While Sunho worked, Yuna whispered to June, I've discovered something. The maintenance drones that clean the terrarium. I caught one yesterday. She showed him a tiny robot the size of an ant. It looked like a metal bug with 6 legs. I've reprogrammed it, she said proudly. It can now record what it sees and bring the information back to us. Can it leave the terrarium? June asked, excited. Yes, they come and go through tiny tubes in the rocks. I sent it out yesterday to explore. Just then, Sunho made a sound like tinkling bells. It's open, he said, his light dimming with effort. Inside the communication device were tiny circuits and wires. Yuna examined them carefully. This connects to the krill network, all right, she said, but it's locked to only communicate with the Queen's personal channel. I need time to change it. We don't have time, Jun said. The military leaders will be here tomorrow. We need tow. He stopped as the maintenance drone that Yuna had reprogrammed crawled back to them, its tiny lights blinking. It's back. Yuna picked it up gently. Let me see what it found. She pressed a spot on its back, and a small hologram appeared above it. The image showed a vast room with many glass containers, terrariums of all sizes and shapes. There are more collections, Minji whispered. Dozens of them. The hologram changed, showing a large meeting room where krill officers gathered around a table, looking at maps and battle plans. That must be the war room, Jun said. Can you zoom in on those maps? Yuna adjusted the drone. The image focused on the maps. They showed Earth and its defense systems. Earth is still fighting, Jun said, his voice tight with emotion. Look at those red marks. Those are battles. And the green areas must be where Earth still holds control. Earth hasn't fallen, Minji said, hope in her voice for the first time. The hologram changed again, showing a massive krill ship under construction. That's the flagship for their next attack, Jun said grimly. It's huge. Yuna turned off the hologram as they heard movement nearby. A patrol drone buzzed past their hiding spot. We need to send a warning to Earth, Jun said once the danger had passed. That ship has a weak point. All krill ships do. If we can tell Earth defense about it, they might have a chance. But how? Tai asked as he rejoined them. Even if we fix this device, we don't know Earth's communication frequencies. June thought for a moment. We don't need to. We just need to hack into the krill military network. When those officers visit tomorrow, they'll connect to the Queen's systems, and we can piggyback on that connection. Yuna finished, understanding his plan. It's possible, but dangerous. If the Queen catches us, she'll crush us, Minji said bluntly. Sunho's body glowed with red light. I see another problem. The message must be short. The connection will only last seconds before they detect it. June nodded. Then we make every word count. Earth needs to know about the flagship's weakness, the timing of the attack, and, he paused, that I'm alive with critical intelligence. Why tell them you're alive? Tai asked. Because, Jum said, his eyes hard with determination, when Earth Command knows I'm here, they'll come for me. And when they do, they'll bring the full force of Earth's fleet with them. As dawnlight began to filter into the terrarium, they separated, each going back to their normal routines. Today the krill military would visit. Today they would make their move. And today, Jun thought, the prisoners would become the hunters. The terrarium lights brightened to full day mode. From his hiding spot near the communication device, Jun watched as the mechanical cleaning system activated. Small jets sprayed fresh water into the stream, and tiny maintenance drones moved through the plants, fixing broken stems and removing dead leaves. "It's starting," Yuna whispered beside him. "The queen always cleans the terrariums before visitors arrive." June nodded. They had spent the early morning hours preparing. Todd had organized lookouts across the terrarium. Minji had gathered the other humans, explaining just enough of the plan to get their help without risking the queen overhearing. Sunho had spread word to the non-human specimens, using his light signals to communicate across species barriers. "Remember," Jun said quietly, "when the military leaders arrive, everyone acts normal. We need the queen focused on showing off her collection, not on what we're doing." The terrarium trembled slightly as heavy footsteps approached. Queen Vex appeared at the glass wall, but she wasn't alone. 5 other krill stood with her, all wearing dark military armor, with rank symbols June recognized from his battles against their forces. "My most interesting specimens," the queen's voice boomed through the speakers. "Humans from Earth, the planet that continues to resist us." One of the military krill leaned close to the glass, his mandibles clicking. "These tiny creatures have destroyed our attack fleets. Hard to believe." "Their size is deceiving," the queen replied. "They adapt quickly and work together in ways our scientists still don't fully understand." The krill general tapped the glass hard, sending vibrations through the terrarium that knocked several people off their feet. "They look weak to me," he said. Jun gave the signal. According to plan, the terrarium residents began showing off their adaptations. Some demonstrated their tiny but effective weapons. Others showed the homes they had built from natural materials. 2 people even staged a mock fight, showing human combat techniques. While all eyes were on the display, Yuna connected their modified communication device to one of her reprogrammed maintenance drones. Sunho used his light fingers to make final adjustments to the circuits. "The system is active," Yuna whispered. "The military leaders' ships must be docked at the palace. I'm picking up their secure channels." "How long until you can send our message?" Jun asked. 1 minute, maybe less. Outside the glass, the queen was showing the military leaders a holographic display of human biology. "Their adaptive immune system is particularly interesting," she was saying, "and their brain structure allows for complex problem-solving even under stress." "Impressive research," the general admitted. "But how does this help us defeat them?" "By understanding their strengths, we find their weaknesses," the queen answered. "For example, they depend heavily on their social bonds." She pressed a button on her control panel. Inside the terrarium, a section of ground suddenly dropped away, creating a deep pit. 2 villagers who had been standing there fell in, screaming. "When one is threatened," the queen continued coldly, "the others will sacrifice their own safety." "Now," Jun shouted, abandoning secrecy. Yuna activated the communication device. At the same moment, Tai led a rescue team to help those who had fallen into the pit. All across the terrarium, people began moving in patterns that Jun had taught them, military formations designed to confuse observers. "What are they doing?" the general asked, watching the sudden activity. "I'm not sure," the queen said, her voice showing concern for the first time. She pressed more buttons on her control panel. "Something's accessing our network." Yuna's hands moved quickly over the tiny device. "Message sent," she shouted. "Earth will know about the flagship's weakness, and that you're alive." Alarms began blaring outside the terrarium. The queen's compound eyes widened as she realized what had happened. "The specimens are communicating outside the terrarium," she shouted. "Shut down all networks. Now." The military leaders rushed from the room as red lights flashed. The queen stayed, her eyes fixed on Jun with a mixture of rage and something else. "Respect. You used my interest in you against me," she said. "Clever." "Humans adapt," Jun replied simply, standing tall despite his tiny size. "It won't matter," the queen said. "Your message is too late. The attack fleet leaves tomorrow." She turned away. Guards, prepare the specimens for immediate termination. As the queen left, Minji approached Jun with fear in her eyes. What now? They're going to kill us all. Jun looked around at the faces watching him, humans and aliens alike, all depending on his next decision. No, he said firmly. They're going to try. Alarms still blared through the queen's palace. Red lights flashed outside the terrarium glass. Inside, Jun gathered everyone in the village center. We don't have much time, he said. The queen will send guards to take us, but first she needs to find containers small enough to hold us. What's your plan? Tai asked. Everyone looked at Jun with fear and hope in their eyes. We're not waiting to be captured, Jun said firmly. Yuma, how many maintenance drones have you reprogrammed? 6, she answered. Not enough to carry us all. We don't need them to carry us, Jun explained. We need them to carry these. He held up tiny pieces of the communication device they had taken apart. If we place these in the right spots around the palace, we can disrupt the queen's security systems. Minji looked confused. But how does that help us? Because, Jun said with a smile, our message got through. Earth knows I'm alive and where to find me. They'll be coming, and when they do, they'll need a way in. We're going to give it to them. Moving quickly, they divided into teams. Each team took a piece of the communication device and attached it to one of Yuna's reprogrammed drones. Sunho used his light fingers to make final adjustments to the programming. The drones will exit through the maintenance tubes, Yuna explained to everyone. They'll place the disruptors at key points in the palace defense system. What about us? Someone asked. The queen is coming back to kill us. Not if we're not here, Jun said. He pointed to the pit the queen had opened earlier. That's our way out. Ta looked doubtful. It drops to a solid floor. There's nowhere to go from there. Yes, there is, Jun argued. The queen's terrariums all connect to the same waste disposal system. If we can get into that system, we can move between collections. And then what? Minji asked. We gather allies, Jun said simply. We're not the only prisoners here. The queen has dozens of terrariums with beings from many worlds. Together, we can do more than survive. We can fight back. As they spoke, a loud hissing sound came from the terrarium entrance. Gas began pouring in, the queen's way of knocking them out before collection. Move now, Jun ordered. Everyone rushed to the pit. Using ropes made from woven grass, they lowered themselves down to the metal floor below. Jun went last, looking up one final time at the beautiful prison that had held them. At the bottom, Yuma had already found what Jun had suspected, a small drainage hole where wastewater was removed from the terrarium. It's big enough for us to fit through, she said. One by one, they crawled through the tight space. The tube led to a larger pipe that served many terrariums. As they moved along it, they saw other openings branching off. Other collections, Sunho said, his body glowing with excitement. Just as you thought. Jun led them forward until they reached a junction with a grate. Through it, they could see a massive room filled with control panels and screens. It was the central control room for all the queen's terrariums. Only 2 guards, Jun whispered. The rest must be preparing for the attack on Earth. At that moment, the palace shook violently. Distant explosions could be heard. What was that? Minji asked. Jun smiled. That, my friends, is Earth. On the control room screens, they could see images of space around the palace. Earth ships were appearing, dozens of them, launching an attack on the Krill homeworld. They got our message, Ta said in amazement. They came for us. They came for more than us, Jun said. They came to end this war. The guards in the control room rushed out, leaving it empty. Jun turned to his tiny army. This is our chance. We take that control room. We open every terrarium. We free every prisoner. And then he looked at the screens showing the battle outside. We help Earth finish this. Sunho moved to Jun's side, glowing bright blue. From the smallest places come the greatest changes. Yuma nodded. The Queen thought making us small would make us weak. It made us deadly, June finished, because she never saw us coming. Together, the smallest army in the galaxy moved forward to change the course of the war. The legendary warrior, once trapped in a glass cage, was about to show the Queen the true power of adaptation.